Okay, thank you. My name is Robert Garcia. I'm the ranking member of the Oversight Committee. We've got Oversight Democrats here. I think most folks know that we have Alex Acosta with us here for the next few hours, who is obviously right now involved in a line of questioning on both Republican and Democrats. So we've just finished our first hour with Mr. Acosta, and so we do have some comments members are going to talk about, and then this will continue throughout the day, just to be very clear. I just want to make sure some things clear that we made clear and that we heard from Mr. Acosta just in this first hour. Now, it's very clear that Alex Acosta ran a deeply flawed investigation of the Epstein case. That's clear. He also would not admit that Mr. Epstein received a sweetheart deal, which has been widely reported and agreed upon since that deal was actually made by Mr. Acosta and his team. So he would not admit, and in fact stands by the decision to have given Mr. Epstein a sweetheart deal, which was only 18 months, and which during that time he went on to abuse multiple women that he raped during that time, when he was supposed to, of course, have been in jail by the team by Acosta. Let me also just add, which I think is really important. In his questioning, he also agreed and stood by those decisions and would not claim any responsibility to the victims, and in fact said and was admitted that he had no knowledge of what happened to those victims, even to this day. When asked directly if he actually knew that people were being abused, that women were abused during that time, he would not admit that he knew that information and actually refused to acknowledge the victims. And so with that, I'm going to turn this over to Ms. Crockett, and everyone's going to say a few words. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ranker. And I think I want to pick up on where Congressman Garcia left off. It is this idea that he is not experiencing what most of us experience, which is that hindsight is 20/20. He seems to be pretty dug in on the decisions that he made. And so for me, obviously, I wanted to dig in a little bit and try to ascertain why is it that he felt so confident. And unfortunately, I heard things that disturbed me, such as, well, back in 2006, it was a different time. And it seemed as if we were going back to a little bit of victim shaming and believing that, well, nobody's going to believe these girls or these women, so we're not going to necessarily have a good case. And so instead of rolling the dice, or I don't remember, I think it was a crapshoot was what was said, instead of taking a crapshoot, we just decided that this would be better and this may guarantee that he actually spent some time in custody. Think about that. Think about the responsibility that is upon a prosecutor to go after a child predator and then to say, well, at the end of the day, we don't think they would have been believed. As someone who has been in these courtrooms, who has had to defend against these very types of cases, let me tell you something. And I did try to educate him on the experts that we have that can lay out whether or not a child has any inconsistencies as it relates to the trauma that they have experienced. It doesn't seem like either Mr. Acosta was equipped to be the U.S. attorney at that time, or he's just playing in our faces. I haven't really figured out which one, but neither one of these ultimate conclusions should be okay for the American people.
Hello, Brady. Congressman Maxwell Frost. I 100% agree with what Congresswoman Crockett just said. Mr. Acosta, at least to us in this deposition, essentially said he didn't have faith in the victims, their stories, and their ability to tell their own story and their own testimony, which is deeply disturbing to all of us sitting in there. Not just that, but it seems like Mr. Acosta really had no idea about what was going on in his own office during this investigation, during the deliberation on this, on what is the most high-profile case that his office handled during that time period, which is also a very disturbing fact, given all the other cases that they handle as well. There's going to be more questions, but something else we also talked about was his time in being considered to be Secretary of Labor. Another place where he didn't have much information to give us, didn't have much recollection of specific questions that the administration might have asked him about the Epstein case when they were vetting him and considering him to be on the president's cabinet. He did not have much for us there. He gave some, some things he thought he maybe could have remembered. And I think it was just deflection. And so there'll be more questions around this. But as we know, to this day, when he resigned being Secretary of Labor, he still contends that it's had nothing to do with this case. And I think we all know much better than that. Thank you.
All right. Well, good morning. I'm Melanie Stansbury, and I represent New Mexico's 1st Congressional District. I want to lay out some key facts for you all. It is our understanding from the victims' attorneys that there were at least 40 minors who gave sworn statements to the FBI as part of the investigation before a decision was made in this case that they had been raped, abused, and trafficked. Over 40 minors. And the line prosecutor in this case wrote an 82-page memo to the leadership in the U.S. Attorney's Office recommending a prosecution. And she was so convinced, based on the evidence and interviews that she had taken and reviewed, that she drafted a 53-page indictment in this case. And what Mr. Acosta just told us is that based on his assessment of the case with his team, that he did not see sufficient evidence to move forward with prosecuting the case, that there were weaknesses in the case. When asked if he made the decision as to whether or not to fully prosecute this case, he took responsibility for it. He said it was the decision of him and his team. But when asked if he had directly reviewed the evidence itself, in this case, he said that he had not actually read the statements of the victims. So let me just say this. Something doesn't smell right here. We have a number of hours that we will be spending today to understand what and if Mr. Acosta understood the full scope of the evidence, what he used to make his decisions, and why he chose, instead of pursuing a prosecution in which we know there were at least 40 minors, and afterwards there were many more victims during the non-prosecution period, why he made that decision. And so we will be pursuing that in the coming hours in this interview under oath, but something doesn't smell right here, and we're going to get to the bottom of it.
I'm Congressman Suhas from Virginia's 10th Congressional District. Everyone seems to agree that there was this terrible miscarriage of justice in this case, except Alex Acosta. He thinks that his sweetheart deal was actually the best course of action and still seems to stand by it. And he was investigating Jeffrey Epstein, who was a close friend of Donald Trump's, and this came up during his vetting process to join the Trump administration. And so it seems like it's starting to make more sense every day to me why the Trump administration won't release the files. Is because Alex Acosta was involved in the sweetheart deal, and it seems like the Trump administration is going to continue this cover-up until Oversight Dems gets to the bottom of this, because we're the ones that have actually been pushing the right questions in this case.
Good afternoon. It is clear from what we have heard, and we know this, Alex Acosta helped Jeffrey Epstein evade the law. Allowing Epstein a single state charge and a non-prosecution agreement is a slap in the wrist, despite over 30 identified victims at the time. As my colleagues have mentioned, it is clear that Alex Acosta holds no remorse and does not feel, even in hindsight, that Jeffrey Epstein received a sweetheart deal. Now, just a couple of weeks ago, we all sat in the room with the survivors of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. We heard directly from them, including individuals who were raped and abused by Epstein during this sweetheart deal and during the time period where Alex Acosta made sure that Jeffrey Epstein was able to evade the law. I continue to have more questions now than I did walking into the room earlier today, because this is somebody who is not clearly answering questions. We still need to find out, why is it that the Donald Trump administration felt that he deserved to be the Secretary of Labor during the first Trump administration? So many questions are left to be answered. I think Alex Acosta is a small but important part of this, and it's important to remember that this is a massive cover-up. There are many more people involved, financial institutions involved, potentially foreign governments involved, but this is one key part to getting to the bottom and getting to the answers that we need to get justice for the survivors.
Hi, Congressman Dave Min out of California 47, and before coming to Congress, I was a law professor at UC Irvine. And I'll tell you, after the first hour sitting with Alex Acosta, I found him to be completely non-credible as a witness. His answers were evasive, they obfuscated, and they were just not believable. Just to give you one example, we know that his chief federal prosecutor, in addition to bringing a long charging memo and a prosecution memo, had actually said that the computer evidence that was being withheld by the defense at that point in time, all these files, the surveillance videos, perhaps child pornography, they were not producing it. She had said that that was a smoking gun. That would put this whole thing to bed. When I asked Alex Acosta about this, his response was that he didn't actually review the evidence on this case and would have no input on this, which is just impossible to believe given the high-profile nature of Jeffrey Epstein at the time, given the fact that Alex Acosta was having meetings with the attorneys for Jeffrey Epstein contemporaneously with all this. Completely non-credible. I doubt we'll get a lot of honesty out of him today, but what we're hoping to get is a roadmap to the types of evidence that we can demand from, as the Oversight Committee, from the Epstein estate, a roadmap to that, and of course we're going to continue to get, I believe, a lack of remorse, a lot of obfuscation out of Alex Acosta. Very frustrating, but we are going to get answers. Thank you.
Good afternoon. James Walkinshaw from Virginia's 11th District. I was sworn into Congress last week, and one of the first things I did was sign the discharge petition to release the Epstein files. And what we heard today, what I heard today, validated that decision for me. There is a clear through line over the course of this Epstein tragedy, and it is a callous disregard for the victims and the survivors. And Mr. Acosta demonstrated that today. We know that he signed off on the sweetheart deal for Jeffrey Epstein without consulting with the survivors. Today, he refused to accept what those survivors have told us, that after Jeffrey Epstein was released as a result of that sweetheart deal, he went on to abuse more women. A callous disregard for victims and survivors. And we are going to continue to push and push and push and fight so that those survivors get the transparency and the justice that they deserve. Thank you.
Let me just close up, and then if there's one question or two, we've got to get back to this deposition of these interviews. Just want to remind everyone, so we actually heard from the survivors just recently. This was just a couple of weeks ago. One of the survivors that was there was very clear that she was abused and assaulted and raped by Jeffrey Epstein during his work release, and during that time when he was out, during that 18-month period that was given to him by Mr. Acosta and his team. And yet Mr. Acosta stands by the deal, stands by the fact that women were assaulted and raped during that time, and clearly many before, and would not even agree that anyone was actually abused during that time. We asked him directly if he actually understood that during the sentence that Jeffrey Epstein received, that he went on to abuse other women, and he would not answer that question. He said he was not aware that that actually happened, that he could not confirm that that actually happened. That has been widely reported. And so he is completely not credible, and he's has been clearly involved in the broader cover-up that is happening right now, clearly being directed by the White House and the Attorney General. Lastly, we call again on the President and the Attorney General to release the Epstein files so that the full truth of what happened can be released to the public, and most importantly, the survivors to get the justice that they deserve. There's one question or two, and then we're going to head back.
Mr. Garcia, you've covered a lot on Acosta, but we need to ask you about the Jeff Zients transcript. There's been a lot of reporting about his testimony regarding the president's cognitive ability when he was president, suggested that he needed multiple meetings to make decisions, that he'd slowed down. Do you agree with the characterization about what's been reported, and what was your take on that interview?
Look, I think the Republicans keep trying to focus on the past, and they keep focusing on President Biden and his health, while they're ripping away health care from 17 million Americans. Right now, we're focused on the Epstein interview. Yes.
Quick question. During this first part of this interview, did any more names come up that you might want to investigate, or who might have been, quote, on this client list?
I think that every single interview conversation that we have, there are more people that we want to talk to, and certainly more information that we need. But in order to get to the truth, we need the release of the files. Next question.
You brought up vetting several times around his labor secretary position. Did Acosta say he was actually asked about the Epstein investigation while he was vetted for labor secretary?
He was evasive.
He was very evasive about it.
Yeah. So he was asked that question, and he wouldn't really answer the question.
Long rambling.
I don't think we got a clear answer. I don't believe we got a clear answer who Acosta was speaking with, or representatives of who may have been speaking to him, not just before that confirmation, but also possibly after. And with that, we're going to actually head back to the question. So thank you very much.
Mr. Garcia, do you disagree with the characterization, though?
I disagree with the characterization.